Hello and welcome back to a Yapping with me, Fellonius the Wizard. Now and again I get into some sort of, nostalgic wishing list or something like that. Suddenly I would want to have had nostalgia about years that was before even I was born. I mean, I would love to have been 20 growing up in the 50s. I would. But I wasn't, because I wasn't even born back then. My father was. I think he was he was 20 when 1950 came around. So he probably would have had some sort of memories, collections of the 50s. But I would wish to have had the same experience. But every time I think about that, I'm starting to wondering, hold it, why? Why is that feeling so strong? I mean, it feels like I was born too late, like 20 years too late. And still, I'm not. If I go back to my 20, when I was 20, mid 70s, early 80s, I mean, I have memories from that part as well, but it feels like the 80s and the 50s are so different, and I would love to have had the 50s instead in the 80s. Of course, there is some reasons. We had some revival groups in Sweden who started to play 50s music. We had the Boppers, where there was some British as well, Sha-Na-Na, Show Waddy Waddy, many of them. And perhaps that was one of the reasons that I suddenly felt like, oh, I love the 50s, I would love to have had the 50s. But every time there is something bothering me, because everything wasn't the best with the 50s. I would love to have had the people. People were more polite back then. They were lifting their hats for the ladies. They were more gentle. They were more, how should you say it, more laid back, sort of. And they were more thankful for everything new that came along. A new car model suddenly shows up, and people are really appreciating the efforts made to make that car. If a new car comes today, people don't even notice unless they are trying to buy a car. A car seems to be something that is just the same no matter what the mark is. And that is true. Food seemed to be more natural back then. Perhaps I'm wrong. I have no idea because I wasn't born. But it felt like most of the food that we ate, at least in the beginning of the 60s, were more natural than it was in the 70s and the 80s. So perhaps I would have appreciated the food more back then. And the meetings, there was less TV in Sweden, at least. There was not that many shows. There was not that much to listen to on the radio. You were enjoying your stay with friends much more, perhaps having a card game or anything like that. But there was probably some other stuff as well. You had to be wary of the communism. You have to go to church, because we were more churchgoers back then. We weren't as secularized as we are today. But I wouldn't have minded, would I? How do you get rid of a feeling about being born too late? I mean, I'm perfectly fine where I am today, and I'm okay. I'm enjoying myself immensely. I would most likely not have had the life I have had back then. On the other hand, we don't know that, do we? It's so different between now and then anyway. Or should I have been even earlier? Should I have been on the 30s, before the Second World War? No, I don't think so. However, there is one thing about being born now and then. There is no way I would exchange my older me to a younger version. There is no way I would wish to become young again. The young people of today are they are living through hell. Anything they try to do, they will be sort of doomed for anyway. And trying to become anyone and all that, I think that sounds so much harder work. So I should probably just be pleased that everything worked out fine for me. You should probably appreciate just being who you are. Thank you for listening. Bye.